Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book review. Today, we're going to be covering this book, The Hunting of the Last Dragon by Cheryl Jordan. I don't know where I bought this book, but I bought it for $3. It's a short, 240 or so page book, and with an interesting framing choice for the narrative. This book is copyright 2002, and the summary says, in England in 1356, as a monk records his every word, a young peasant tells of his journey with a young Chinese noblewoman to St. Ulfric's Cove and the lair of a dragon. So, this book, as that summary alludes to, involves two characters, a young man and a young fugitive Chinese noblewoman. She also has a disability in that she is unable to really walk well. She is crippled because of that tradition of making the feet as tiny as possible, which involved breaking her bones to do it. So she can't really walk well, and she ends up effectively a wandering troops sideshow. They have bears, they have animals of other sorts, and they also have an imprisoned Chinese girl. The way this story reads is that at the start of every chapter is the main character speaking directly to the audience, but his audience is a monk who has taken a vow of silence and writes down this story. So it opens with a monologue by Jude, the main character, discussing the other main character, Jingwei, who he describes her bandaged feet were black with soot, and gray ash dust lay across her smooth lips and strange brown skin. She was all strange, small, and impossibly delicate considering the task ahead of her. But the way it opens is technically, he starts with the ending, and then he says, "But my tale races too far and fast ahead. Mayhap I should begin at the beginning. On that evil night it all started. I saw the way you rolled your eyes just then, Brother Benedict, and caught the way you dipped your pen, impatient-like, in the pot of ink. Your tolerance, please. Storytelling is new to me, but I shall soon get in the way of it and put my words in better order. I wish that I could write and be my own scribe, then there'd be no need to make this call upon your time. The abbot knows my story," I told him briefly, "and he said Jingwei and I might remain here at the monastery as guests for as long as it takes for you to write my narrative. He seems to think my tale important and instructed me to tell it full well with nothing spared. I told him I have no alms to pay for hospitality, but he said Jingwei could help Brother Gregory in the infirmary, mixing medicines and making poultices and feeding the aged monks, and I'm to work in the kitchen every day between the hour of tierce and noon to help the cooks get dinner. A decision the abbot shall soon repent of, I think, when he eats my pastries. And in the afternoons and evenings, so the abbot said, you and I shall do this work for what it's worth. We are ready, then. Your pen sharp and inked, and the candles bright enough? I shall begin again at the beginning." From there, Jude tells the story of how he was a farm boy who was pretty bad at archery. One day he asks to go to the town over to buy a new bow because he blames his bow and not his own skill with his inability to hunt small game. So, with money in hand, he is given permission to go to the next town over, and there he sees a wandering troupe that has a few entertainers, as well as there he meets Jingwei, who he sees as a sideshow. After all his errands are done, he wanders home and finds his home burned to the ground. He is the only survivor of his family, and he immediately regrets the harsh words he had said towards his sisters the night before. He is taken in by that troupe, and the entertainers keep him around as a laborer, basically. He eventually feels pity towards Jingwei, and so he is given the task of tending to the animals, Jingwei included. When the news of the dragon becomes taken more seriously by the general public, the leader of this troupe of wandering entertainers says that he was descended from a dragonslayer, and this blade that he carries is a dragon-slaying blade. The leader of this troupe has a son who seems to think himself a dragon slayer, having grown up on his father's tales of the child's great-grandfather. He wants to take that sword and slay the dragon. Before he leaves, he wants to not die a virgin, I guess, and he takes Jingwei out into the woods to molest her. Jude wakes up, realizes what's going on, and goes out into the woods, follows, and knocks this young man unconscious. And when he realizes what he's done, he flees with Jingwei. They eventually stumble onto a old Chinese woman who is seen as a witch by the locals of the town she lives near, but who still come to her for healing remedies. Jingwei feels that this older woman, this woman from her homeland, is wise, and that witch returns that kindness, that respect with help. She heals Jude from an injury he had sustained, and she also helps Jingwei with her feet. The older woman says that she used to be in love with a dragon slayer herself, and he had succeeded and was injured and basically crippled until he died. But she has all of his notes on how to slay a dragon, and she provides some aid to Jingwei, while Jude hesitates and says that he doesn't want to go fight a dragon because he doesn't want to die. He thinks it's a fool's errand. He eventually turns around and goes along with Jingwei because that's, what a man does. That's what he feels a man should do. And there's a bit of growing in friendship and respect for her, and being willing to accept that she is her own individual and that she can really carry her own weight. There's all these asides. So like chapter 10 opens up, "Sorry, I'm a little late, brother. I've been in the orchard again, helping bring in the apples and storing them on their racks in the huge pantry. I worked with brother Tobit, and he kept me well entertained with his tales and bawdy jokes. I love his wit. I notice he's the jester in the common room in the evenings when you're all allowed to relax and talk afore the hours of the night and the great silence." There's stories like that really make it feel like that this monastery he's at is just a real place, and there's real people, and there's all these sorts of things happening in the background, and it makes this, instead of just a third-person narrative, it makes it a first-person narrative that feels comfortable and homey. It's a short book, like I said, only 240 pages, but it is fun and charming in its own way, especially as I've been going on about with this framing that Jude, the main character, is dictating his story to someone else, which allows it to be in that first-person narrative, while also allowing him to bounce ideas off of someone else and get a second opinion about things. I bought it for $3 and I love it. I've only read it once because I only read it back in March or April. I had a day off. I read it in full on one day. So I think you should check out this book, The Hunting of the Last Dragon by Cheryl Jordan. And yeah. My name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book review.